Before we ask questions, I'll read you guys what we have statistically, so we can overreact to all of it. N'Kosi Perry was 9 for 15 for 78 yards. Jaron Williams was 7 for 12 for 79 yards. Tate Martell was 4 for 11 for 78 yards, had an interception and a touchdown. Carson Proctor was 1 for 1 for 23 yards. Carrying the football, DJ Dallas, 13 carries, 108 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cam Harris, 10 rushes for 61 yards. Mark Pope chipped in with a 52-yard run. Receiving, KJ Osborne, 6 catches for 67 yards. Will Mallory, 3 catches for 39 yards. Evidence Njoku had 2 for 28. Jeremiah Payton had 3 for 60 and a touchdown. DJ Dallas added an 11-yard catch to his rush total, and Mark Pope had 2 for 34 in addition to his rush. On the defense side of the ball, DJ Ivey had an interception to go along with his 2 tackles that he pitched to Mike Pickney, who ran around, got some exercise in. He had 5 tackles for 1 and a sack. Nigel Beth had 5 tackles, Al Blade had 5 tackles, and Shaq had 4 tackles. Questions?
Manny, any significance to N'Kosi being the first quarterback out there?
I think just because maybe from coming out of Thursday's practice, he had just nosed in front, but beyond that, I think we still try to divvy up the reps as equally as possible.
How did today compare to last week?
Much better, much more competitive, but to be expected. We kind of analyzed last week and what we didn't like about last Saturday, and really what we talked about today is just coming out here with a competitive spirit, playing with some passion, and there was a bazillion execution errors still evident, a lot of penalties, a lot of pre-snap things that wouldn't have been called, but we just kind of let it play today, let it rip, and we wanted to see if they'd compete. You know, our alumni dinner last night, a lot of the former players, that's what they talked about, so that was kind of the standard that we sort of put for today, and I thought this has been a while since we've had a scrimmage that looked like this.
Manny, how did you feel they handled the elements? I know that was a concern for you last week.
It's tough, yeah, and we're bare bone thin. I mean, we have a whole team of guys that are not practicing right now, just with you know, thankfully nothing that's too long term, but a lot of guys that are out for a short amount of time, and so the guys that went today, they're going a lot, and you may or may not be noticing a lot of offensive linemen are pulling double duty, a lot of the wide receivers and tight ends are pulling double duty, a lot of guys on the defense side of the ball up front pulling double duty. We're sort of shifting guys around at safety and at linebacker, but so the guys that went today, I thought they went hard, thought they went well. The pacing of the game, some TV timeouts tried to help with that, but I appreciate the breeze and every now and then some cloud cover. God chipped in, that helped too.
Man, it's the first time we've seen Jaron in a while. I mean, this much action kind of. How do you think he did?
It looked like it, yeah. I mean, Jaron kind of looked like N'Kosi, kind of looked like Tatum. They all kind of stood in there. They all sort of made some throws. It's what's fun from my vantage point is just seeing all those guys in a week's time, how much more comfortable they are with where to go with the ball, and they're starting to understand where the answers are and where to find the open guy. And I think as that progresses, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to do that again by next Saturday. Like I told them, we're better than we were, Saturday ago. But if we let anything that happened, good, bad, or indifferent, make us feel like we've arrived or that all of our problems are solved, we're fooling ourselves. We're just a little bit better. We need to get a little bit better, and we really need to get a lot better by the time August rolls around.
How were you getting about linebacker Jennings today? Like to ankle or something?
Jennings is a little bit of a groin deal, so we'll find out what that's all about. Obviously we're very thin right now, and Jennings is a guy that's really stepped up and had an outstanding spring. Hopefully we'll get him back for this week. But if not, we'll make do, and obviously we'll get Zach McLeod back. Obviously we're without Zach and all the contact stuff. So, I still feel like we've got a lot of high-level players to handle our inside linebacker spots for when we come in the fall. But we're as thin as we can be right now, for sure.
And we saw some of the alumni here, but they mentioned preached competition. Was there any one guy in particular that the message stuck out, and why do you think it stuck?
Well, Ed Reed spoke last night and was outstanding. And his message was about team. I mean, here's a guy that is really in the argument for being the greatest safety of all time. We throw around the GOAT phrase a lot, but he's a guy that really is in the mix for that. And if he spoke for 10 or 15 minutes last night to our team, he might have mentioned 20 to 25 of his teammates. Here's a guy that's got every opportunity to talk about himself and what he did in his preparation and how he was this and that and the other. And all he talked about was how important the team model was, how important his teammates were, and how important that was. So we kind of came out here today with that mentality of like, instead of coming out here and everyone wants to do well, we get it, everyone wants to put good numbers up. put on a good show for the fans. But instead of worrying about yourself, how about let's just worry about the team? How about being a guy that just makes the team better? And you know what's crazy? When we kind of put our own little selfish worries aside, you know what happens? You individually do well. And whatever you wanted, you end up getting. So that was a great message that carried over from last night, and it looked like our guys took it to the field today.
The rising sophomore skill guys, particularly Cam and Pope, do you feel like they've kind of taken a leap this spring? Obviously, Pope in particular didn't play a lot last year.
Sure.
Today.
Well, sure, you'd hope so, right? You know, I mean, they're dealing with the difference between high school football and college football, and that's a dramatic difference, and just dealing with climbing up the depth chart. But you can see why we recruited those guys, you know, and they're just two. There's a bunch of other guys that we could talk about. This should be their time. This should be what they do in their, you know, spring after their freshman year. So those guys are all making steps. Like I said, a lot better than they were a week ago. Now the challenge will be to make that next step for Orlando next week.
You didn't throw deep much today. Was that due to the wind, or not all of those plays are put in yet?
I didn't throw any passes today. So. You haven't seen my arm? No. A lot of times there could be a guy that's called on a shot, and the quarterback might have checked down. Sometimes he can't, you know, because of protection things like that, you know. So all that goes into it.
Manny, we O-line, any comments on them? We saw Corey didn't play. And
Navon Donaldson, what he's done, he has been a center for 8 days in his life. And we couldn't, I don't think we had a fumble snap today. I don't think we had a bad snap in shotgun today. So he's been outstanding, filling in at center. And I thought for the most part, we saw a lot less misassignments today. The plays had a chance today, which is, you know, that's kind of rule one for the offense. A lot less negative plays, a lot cleaner pocket for the quarterbacks. Okay, thank you all so much, again.